Hello, so I wanted to do a quick video on this Viewdata Terminal. I believe it's an Alcatel Telic 258 or a Terminatel 258. It's similar in sort of appearance to the French Minitel 1B, which is a little odd. So this was manufactured in 1990, and at that point they were making newer terminals, so that the Minitel 2 was out by then. And in the other video I did it with the Philips NMS 6302. That came out at the same time as this, and this one does look a little bit more dated compared to the Philips one. So you'll see it's got a flip down keyboard, which is kind of common for these French Minitel terminals. This one's got a physical power switch on the right hand side here, which is pretty useful. So the Philips one that I did a video of, there was no power switch. The idea was it was always on standby at your fingertips, but it used to get quite hot and it just used to sit there kind of cooking itself. So it's quite nice that you can actually turn this one off properly. And then there's also this slider here which adjusts the brightness of the screen. So this is the rear of the unit where things get a little bit more interesting. So all of the models in this kind of chassis has these two sort of pull-out panels, and they seem to come in various formats. So the French one has got two telephone sockets on the back, one to connect to the line and one to plug a phone into. This one's slightly different. It's got a bunch of features which I've not seen on the French models. This was an export version. This one specifically for the UK, although I've seen similar models used in Italy and I think America as well. On the left hand side, this is the telephone cable. It has got a moulded BT plug on the end, and this is the mains cable. This is a DB25 pin connector. I assume it's for a parallel port, but I'm not entirely sure. This adjusts the speaker volume, so there is a speaker under this grill that kind of beeps and makes the occasional sound, so that adjusts the volume. And on the right hand side there's a SCART port. It's been suggested that might support colour, so this is a black and white unit, as you'll see when I switch it on. So yeah, it might support colour, but I've not plugged it in yet. And then there's also these two 5-pin DIN ports. So this one on the far right, most Minitel terminals had this 5-pin serial connector. So it's a 5-volt TTL, and the idea was you could plug it to a printer, or in France they had kind of like these memory identity card things. So that served a number of purposes. This one here is another 5-pin DIN connector. As far as I can tell from some of the sales documentation, it was intended for an external modem. So I'm not sure if that's because it's an export version. It was with the intention that, you know, standards and sort of certification in different countries may vary, so they might need to provide an external modem. But that's there. I've not dug too deeply into it just yet. I've not found a manual for this, so the information I do have is kind of from a sales leaflet, which I'll include in the comments. So yeah, it's kind of guesswork at the moment. I'm not sure if you can tell from the video, but they are slightly different formats in terms of the 5-pin DIN. I forget the exact name for them. I think one's 270 and one's 240 or something like that. Again, I'll include that in the comments below. So this is the keyboard. As you can see, it's got English text on, and these buttons up here are a lot smaller than the sort of French versions. There's more of them. I think these cursor keys might be an addition, but I'm not looking at them side by side, so I couldn't tell you immediately. But there's the local line button, erase, cancel, repeat, index, guide, previous and next. They're kind of standard Viewdata actions. You've got the cursor keys, a control key, a delete key, a memory key, which is also the directory setup, and also the seize the line button. And then there's the send, which acts as enter or return, or also the hash key. Then you've got kind of fairly standard QWERTY keyboard, and then the number pad at the top. So pressing shift activates these kind of highlighted functions at the top. I'm not sure what T2 is for, literally no idea. The rest are fairly self-explanatory. Memory acts as the directory. Not sure what escape's for. Reveal. So Viewdata can support like hidden text, and then reveal will show it. The idea being you can have something like a quiz or a question, and pressing reveal will show you the answer. There's print, which presumably sends us the text on screen out of the printer port. And then there is page. So there's sort of 4 pages which you can swap between. I think they may act as like a virtual desktop where the page you're on is held in the buffer, and then you can swap between them. I'm not entirely sure. So that's pretty much it for the keyboard. So this is what it looks like when it's powered on. Just says v01.uk software. This is kind of its boot screen, if you like. So similar to the Philips one, this terminal does have a kind of rudimentary directory. So if I press shift and then this key with a book on it, this is the directory. You'll see the first option I've got there is the Telstar number. So I go to 02 to enter a new one and then hit send. Each option can be one of 3 different things. So it can either be a phone number or a logon or an identification. So this isn't necessarily just numbers that you'll dial. I think it can also send them as strings to the Viewdata service that you're connecting to. So for the first one, I'll go phone number, hit next, and it's going to ask me if it's Prestel or Teletel. So I'll go with P, hit next, it's going to ask me for the name, just call it test, hit next, and then it's going to ask me to enter the phone number, so blah blah blah. The next and final option, it says linkage. Now as far as I can tell, you can chain these commands together. So you can have a number, then you can get it to send an identity, and so on. So you can get it to step through these and do several different things at once. That's just a guess. But anyway, that's how you configure the directory. But you can't actually dial it from this page, as far as I can tell anyway. So if I press shift and then memory again to save it. So the way you would dial it is you press the telephone button to seize the line. You then press this phone book button, and then it's going to give you this cursor. So then you press 0 and then 1. Then it looks it up from the directory, and it's dialing the number. So it seems like a weird way of doing it. Not displaying them on screen to allow you to choose them from, but it's just like a hotkey, if you like. So now it's dialing. So if I press shift and the phone button, setup, you'll see there's an operating mode menu. So the first section allows you to select between Prestel or Teletel. The next one allows you to select between the standard character set or ASCII. I've currently got ASCII selected for when I previously tried something. So if I hit next again to go to the next row, first option is video text parameters. So select one, press next. The top one is just the peripheral interface, which is set to V28. Can't change that. And then the transmission speed is set to 300 baud. Again, that would generally be, well, this is for the peripheral port, so it shouldn't affect the actual connection. And then finally there's variable parameters. So if I select 2 and then hit next, so scrolling cursor, on or off, steady blinking, lowercase on or off. Protocol, I'm not sure what that one's for. Again, I've tried turning it on and off, no difference. And flow control, again, I've tried turning it on and off, no difference. There's a few more parameters on this page, start to get a bit more detailed. So the first one is application access, is either modem or RS-232. I think that refers to either the built-in modem or the second DIN connector on the back. The next one is the character format, 7 bits or 8 bits, so Viewdata is generally 7 bits. Parity in stop bits, it's even parity in one stop bit. Again, Viewdata is generally 7 bits, even parity, one stop bit. Reception speed is generally 1200, so that's how it's set. And then for the peripheral interface, again there's options there, TTL or V288, character format, parity stop bits, and then the transmission speed. There are some indicators in the top right corner. So there's a 1, an L, and a P. As far as I know, the 1, you can save pages, so I think you might be able to sort of jump between them, but that is a total guess. I could be wildly wrong with that. There's an L, which again, a bit of a guess, but I believe it stands for local, which means at the moment it's kind of connected to the local serial port rather than via the modem. And then there's a P, which means it's in Press-Tel mode. It also supports Teletel, which is the Minitel network. And you'll see I've also got an engineer's phone on the left-hand side. That allows me to listen to what's going on. So unfortunately, I've not been able to actually get it to connect to anything. So there is a modern Viewdata service called Telstar. I've done a bit of a sort of walkthrough on it in the previous Philips video, and I've just not been able to dial into it. As far as I can tell, it behaves as if the terminal doesn't detect the carrier tone. It just kind of sits there and eventually gives up. So I'll show you what I mean. So if I press this telephone button to seize the line and then dial the number, you might be able to hear it pulsing in the background. So it's dialing the number, and then I'm going to hit this line button. And then you'll see the C in the top right corner is blinking, which means it's trying to detect a carrier tone. I can actually hear the carrier tone in the engineering handset. Not sure if it picked up on video. But as you can see, it's just sitting there blinking. And I can't hear the back channel in the phone either. So once it detects that carrier tone, it should send its own tone back. It's kind of like a lower tone, which indicates it's going to upload at sort of 75 baud. And it just doesn't happen. So I can hear the Telstar service chirping away. It's sending data, but as you can see, it's not being displayed because the terminal still doesn't think it's connected. So it's just going to sit here for a while, and then it's going to give up and disconnect. There it goes. So I'm a bit unsure. On my Philips one, I can hear the phone line in the speaker, in the terminal. So you hear the dial tone, you hear it dialing, you hear a brief bit of the carrier signal, and then it turns the speaker off. That's not happening on this one. It's not clear whether it should or not. I don't think that was a feature on the French terminals. One thing I have noticed, if I change the reception speed to 75 baud, and then save this by pressing shift in the phone button again, it's going to ask me to save. If I hit yes. So now if I dial a number, the behaviour is slightly different. So it's just dialing away. So you'll hear it's now sending the higher tone, which is generally the answering side that sends it, so it indicates it supports 1200 baud, and that's coming out of the speaker, which to me kind of indicates that I should be able to hear the line, the telephone line, but there's some kind of disconnection somewhere, so I can't hear this tone in this handset. I can hear it coming from the answering side, but I can't hear the tone that's originating from this. So there's some kind of disconnect between the audio path of the modem and the modem itself. So that's where I've got to with this. I'm a bit stuck. I've kind of made the video so people can see and understand what's going on, and hopefully give me some suggestions on how to fix it or what to look for. I have previously taken it apart, and there were no obvious issues with it, but I wasn't specifically looking at the modem side. So I can take it apart again and look for dry joints, bad capacitors, try and trace out the modem circuit, although it is fairly complicated in there. So yeah, if you've got any suggestions on things to check or what the issue could be, let me know in the comments. It'd be much appreciated.